Here we go, Wingnut. Tell us what's so great about longboarding.
The great thing about longboarding is it's all about the free ride. It's like when you were a little kid and you were on a bicycle at the top of a hill and you got to just coast all the way down and turn and have fun. Very little work, lots of fun, speed, the wind rushing through your hair. And that's what longboarding is. It's a smooth turn, a free ride down to the end, kick out and just splash in the water. It's the same primal enjoyment that you had as a little kid. The great thing about longboarding is there's no rules. As long as you're having fun, you're doing it right, go out and get as much as you can and just keep a smile on your face. I mean, surfing is an incredibly humbling sport. You can get the greatest wave of your life and the very next wave curl up to your eyeballs and just be reminded that the ocean's always in charge. You're just dealing with whatever it's going to give to you. So there's no right, there's no wrong. It's all about fun. Get as long a wave as you can and just have a good time.
What's involved when I have to pick out a surfboard for myself?
The most important thing about longboarding is your shaper and getting a good surfboard. Because without the shaper who handcrafts the board that you ride, you'd be helpless. And few people realize how important the craftsmanship that's involved in shaping a surfboard is, that they've been doing it for 30 years, most of the great shapers. Because without a good surfboard, without a great shaper, we just drown. The nice thing about surfing and surfboards is just as like there's a million different people that want to surf, there's a million different types of boards you can use. You can have a complete high-performance surfboard. It's got a lot of rocker, the curve from the nose through the tail. It's got a lot of kick in it. better for bigger waves, real hollow round waves. And it also has a nice hard edge, a hard rail, especially through the tail. Because what's important with a performance board is getting the water to release off the rail. That's what gives you the fast turns and the drive. And that's why you're going to have the 3 fins. You're going to get the drive off of your fins. It's got a diamond tail, giving the corners here to help pivot and break a turn. It's just taking the technology and the designs off of a shortboard and adapting them to a longboard. It's just stretching that shortboard technology out. A board like this is probably glassed with a single layer of 4-ounce cloth on the bottom and maybe 2 layers of the 4-ounce cloth on the deck. And that'll change your weight. That makes this very light at 9 feet. So that's the design characteristics of a high-performance board. Very light, lots of rocker, hard edges through the tail, and 3 fins. On the other hand, you go to a board like this, which is a nose rider, specifically designed to camp out on the front end and nose ride. It's really wide at the nose. This particular board is 19.5 inches wide at the nose. It's also 23.5 inches wide in the middle. The tail on this board is 15 inches. If you measure up 12, it'd be 15 inches. That's a good wide tail because for nose riding, what happens is that water is going to wrap around onto the deck of the board and put weight on the tail, and that weight counterbalances you nose riding on the front end. So the same water is going to wrap on the soft rails and come and sit on this tail so that you can nose ride. This board is particularly wide. It's 23.5 inches wide, which makes it really, really stable. The wider a board is, the more stable it would be, which makes it really easy to walk on because it's stable. You also want them a little heavier if you're going to nose ride. Again, so that when you walk, it stays stable and it doesn't move around underneath your feet. And from here, there's a million different options. So this is another version of a nose rider. It's a 9/8 step deck. And another thing to make boards nose ride better, you make them longer. They are smoother when they're longer. They weigh a little bit more. And again, weight usually is a smoother board. Smoother boards nose ride better. So you just put all those things together till you get one you like. This particular one is a step deck where they've taken and scooped out the nose of the board so the nose actually flexes down when you stand on it. So it was designed so that you could thin out the nose. It'd be lighter for turning, but still have a wide nose for when you want to go nose ride. This is actually an original 1966 Harbor Trestle Special. And sometimes, if you really want to smooth out your style and figure out traditional surfing and go back a couple of steps, it's good to get on a heavier old board, a traditional classic surfboard. This one, we made one a little special for bigger waves. We pulled in the tail. It's only got a 13.5 inch wide tail, and it's a pintail, which it holds a little tighter in bigger waves. Also, the nose is a little narrower than the nose rider. This is a 16-inch nose. So this one works real nice in bigger surf. This is pretty much my favorite board. This is an all-around good board. Almost any day you go to the beach, I can take this one because it'll do just about everything. I mean, there's a better nose rider, there's a better board for bigger, hollower waves, but if you're not sure what the surf is going to be, or if you're going to go on a trip where you never know what you're going to get, I like to take something like this along, which is a good all-around surfboard. It's got a fairly narrow nose, 16.75 inches, so it'll still nose ride, but it won't get in the way in bigger surf. It's got a 13.5 inch tail to a 14-inch tail, so that's a nice tight tail for riding in bigger waves. It's got good smooth rocker throughout the whole board for, you know, nice and bigger waves, nice and small, not too much rocker like the first board, which kind of gets in the way in small waves. This is flat and will work nice in small waves. This is probably the most traditional fin you can find, something with a really wide base, you know, from one end to the other, really wide. That's really stable, real powerful out of the turns because of the wide base for a turn. It's got a big tip so it'll nose ride really well. You go to the opposite end, and you'll go to something like this, which has a really narrow base, even narrower in the middle, and then it still has a wide tip for nose riding. But if you combine the two fins, you can really see the difference, how much less area there is in this fin. But they're both about the same height. They're both, you know, a deep, nice 9-inch fin. So they'll both work for nose riding and turning. This one is just going to be a lot looser, and this one will be a little slower and more stable. Well, what's nice is the modern fin box is designed that you can move your fin farther forward or farther back depending on how you like your board to respond. Traditionally, if the fin is all the way in the front of the box, the board will be a little looser because it's farther back from the tail, it's up by the hips of the board. These are the hips right in here, and that'll allow it to be a little looser for turning. If you take the fin and move it all the way to the back of the box, like the traditional old style boards, that's more stable. It'll turn a little bit slower, but since the fin is way at the back, it's like an anchor. It really helps keep the board stable. It doesn't really dictate how you're gonna surf. One of my favorite traditional surfers is Nat Young. And Nat Young rides a 9.6 3-fin board. And he does probably the prettiest drop knee turns you'll ever see. So it doesn't mean because you have 3 fins and hard edges that you have to be a radical, aggressive surfer. The rider has a lot to do with it because the rider is going to impose his will on the boards. And so that's kind of how you figure out what you want to do. So it's different boards for different situations, and you can change anything. The best advice for a new surfer is to try to borrow as many different boards from friends as possible so they get a chance to try different things and find out what they like.